and welcome to Long Live the Queen, where we talk about the women who made history. And by we, I mean the royal we, because it's just me. Today we're going to talk about the Hollow Crown, Henry VI, Part 2. Usually it's just me, but today I have my friend Crystal with me. Hi, Crystal.
Dina.
Okay, you ready for Part 2?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we skipped 5 years later from Part 1 to Part 2. They're just
Okay.
like bloop, bloop, bloop. And meanwhile, 5 years later, and we see a soldier at war panting. This is going to be a lot of war.
Yes.
And Queen Meg is looking out the window, and Henry VI is praying. He's basically like, oh dear, I hate this job. And the Duke of York and Warwick are on their way to, like, capture the king and queen. And then we see the queen is with Somerset, and they're canoodling. And
Yes.
then Somerset is fighting, and he gets injured. They're kind of going back and forth between.
Mm-hmm.
Like, remember, they're kind of together.
Yeah.
And Edmund is fighting with his father, I think. Although I think it might have been Edward. It should be Edmund. Someone is fighting and says father, and I can't honestly tell the difference between Edmund and George and Edward and all them.
That's fair.
Edmund is the one who should be fighting with his father.
The only one that looks different is Richard.
Yep. Always in every variation of the three of them, Richard is the one that looks different. And Warwick, we see him crush a head, and he's looking for Suffolk because he wants to crush another head. And
he is a beast on the field.
Yeah. He is the most beastly Warwick I've ever seen in all the renditions of Warwick.
Right? In what was it? The White Queen. He seemed kind of slimy.
Yeah. That actor made a better Cromwell. He's more lawyery than he is.
Okay. Yeah, he seemed more Littlefinger than Jamie Lannister.
Yes.
Yeah.
That actor, I think, played a really good Cromwell in The Tudors. Because he was very, like, conniving lawyer, sneaky, like, well, technically.
I guess I shouldn't... Warwick's more the Hound, not Jamie Lannister.
Right. And Warwick fights with Suffolk, but York is like, knock it off. It's my job to kill that. Like, I want to kill that guy. You can't just kill whatever guy you want. And York and Suffolk fight, and York kills Suffolk. And R.I.P. Suffolk, and that is the first battle of St. Albans. So the War of the Roses has officially started.
Okay. So the plays, the third play actually starts after the Battle of St. Albans.
Okay. So this is like the end of part 2 in the play.
Right. And then, so it's when he like comes into the chambers, Edward comes into the chambers and sits on the throne. That's where the play starts.
So Somerset is wounded, and then he has no head. So he's R.I.P. Somerset for sure. And poor Queen, she's lost her boyfriend.
Well, he goes into like this huge word battle with this guy. I was like, "You're not good enough to kill me," and the guy's like, "It doesn't matter."
Right?
And then he's like, "I dare you to kill me," and he's like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Off with your head.
I guess that's what I'm gonna say if someone tries to behead me. I'm gonna be like, "Really, you? Like, find someone better." And Suffolk says his heart is now stone.
Yes, the new Duke of Suffolk.
I should say that. His son is looking for him. And his son, the new Duke of Suffolk.
They call him Clifford,
yes,
correct?
Yes.
Okay.
He says his heart is now stone.
My heart of stone.
And Queen Meg is looking for Somerset, and she finds his head. Someone, like, the guy who beheaded him, drops his head in her lap, basically. Can you imagine?
I know, like, bloop.
Yep. Can you imagine?
No.
Someone just, like, yeets your boyfriend's head at you, and you're like, what the hell?
He was watching it with me, and I was like, I would be super upset if someone dropped your head in my lap.
Right? Like, tossed it, kind of. Just like, bloop, here you go. Hot potato. Here's a head. And Queen Meg is now like, oh, fuck this. Like, they killed my boyfriend. This is revenge. Like, now it's going to be war.
Mm-hmm.
And King Henny Six finds his wife, the queen, crying about her decapitated boyfriend. So that's awkward. Can you imagine?
Well, he even says to her, I bet if it was me who's decapitated, you wouldn't be this sad.
And she's like, basically like,
True.
true.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, have you seen you? Have you seen him? he gets stuff done in the bedroom, I think, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I get the impression that her husband does not as much. And that is why there's a rumor that her son was not the king's.
Interesting.
York and Warwick are there with either Edward or Edmund. Now that they're both there, it's confusing because York fought with Edmund and Warwick fought with Edward mostly. But they're all together. They're just mushing it together like they were just in one big group. So I have a hard time telling who's who sometimes. And they are presented with Somerset's head, and they just joke about it, and they also kind of hot potato the head around and like,
Yeah.
now it's your head. And they talk about how the king has fled to London because the king said when he was with the queen, like, the queen was like, we should go back to where people actually like you.
We need to bounce.
Here. Yeah.
Let's go.
So they did go to London. And then York goes home and he's calling for Richard. And Richard is Benedict Cumberbatch, who you probably know from being Doctor Strange in the Avengers.
Yes, and Sherlock Holmes.
Yes. He was also the voice of Smaug, the dragon.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And he was Khan in like the newer Star Trek. Not new, but
yes. Yeah,
Star
the
Trek.
one with Chris Pine.
Mm-hmm. But if the first Battle of St. Albans just happened, Richard should be 2.5 if the first Battle of St. Albans just happened. And meanwhile, like, adult Richard comes walking out of the house. He's supposed to be 2.5. So this is where we start with the, like, creative timelining of this.
Yeah.
And then we see York at Westminster, and Warwick is busting in, and he's all, this shit is yours, York. Like, you're basically the new king, because we just killed those other guys. And York's like, yeah, bitches, I got this. Woo woo, king time. Then we see Henry VI greeting his son, Prince Edward, his only son, who is, what do you think, 7, 8 years old?
Yes.
He is a
He's
child.
very young.
He should be
Yeah.
1.5. So he should be a baby at this point, like,
Okay.
based on the timeline. He is only 1 year younger than Richard,
Okay.
which doesn't make sense, and they're both the wrong age.
Yeah.
And Henny Six sees York on his throne, and his friends are pissed, but Henny Six is like, let's see where this goes. Like, they're just kind of hiding in the shadows, like, oh, let's see.
Right,
Maybe
right.
there's a good reason for this. I don't know. I don't know why you wait. Like, you're just lurking like a creeper.
Well, he's not a real
That's true. He's not a
battle
go-getter.
guy.
He's not a,
Yeah.
let's go shut this down. But then he busts in, and he's like, what the fuck? I'm the king. Why would you be sitting on my throne? And York is like, no, sorry, my guy. I'm the king now. I don't know if you noticed, but I won. And Qyburn is like, you can't be the king because your dad was a traitor, which was true. But also his dad might not have been his dad. There was rumors that his dad was someone else.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because
He was like a surprise baby.
Oh.
Like, after a bunch of years, like, there was a couple kids, and then a big gap, and then him, and his mother may have had a boyfriend at the time.
Well, didn't his wife supposedly have an affair, and Edward, his son, wasn't really
Yeah,
his
there was some debate about that. Like, Cecily came out and said, like, maybe I'll just say that I had an affair. Like, she kind of started that rumor, but
Okay.
the fact of the matter is that if Prince Edward had been born on time, exactly, like if he was born on his due date, his father couldn't be his father because he was out of the country. But if he was 2 weeks early, it tracks.
Oh, well, that's
so
that's
it's
not a lot.
like,
I mean, if it was like 2 months, that's
right?
a big difference. But 2 weeks,
So it's like so
that's not
close
bad.
that it's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, that could be too. Like, so who knows? But technically, his father would have been out of the country if he was born on time. Had he been born just 2 weeks, and 2 weeks, that's full term. So she could have had her baby 2 weeks early, and he could have survived easy. So then they offer Henry Six, the Duke of Lancaster. They're like, how about this? How about I be king, you be the Duke of Lancaster? And they're like, he's already the Duke of Lancaster and the king, so this is a terrible deal. And Henry Six is like father, like son. Once a traitor, always a traitor. Like, your dad's a traitor, you're a traitor. That's how it works. It's an inherited trait.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, you are the Duke of York, and I am the son of Hal Five. And he was the son of Harry Four. So obviously I'm the king, because I come from a long line of kings.
Well,
And
he made a point to say
come
that
from a
Henry
long-
V, like, collected all this land. In
He did.
Paris,
He was
or
very good
in
at
France.
war. His son, not so much, but he was very good
Then
at war.
Warwick was like, and then, yeah, you lost it.
Yeah. Your dad was better at this than you were. And then they talk about how Harry IV won by conquest. That's how he got his crown, which is true because he deposed his cousin, Richard II. And York's like, he rebelled, so obviously that's allowed. Now I'm just doing what he did. And then my son can be the new Hal Five. Sorry for you. And Henry Six is like, it was given to him, which technically is true for anyone that watched Richard II. Like, they forced him. They were like, give us the crown or you die. And so he was like, here, have the crown. So they're saying it was relinquished, but like by force.
Yeah.
I don't know if that counts. And then they killed him anyway. And when he says it was given to him, York is like, but was it though? Was it? I mean, we all heard the story. Like, it was like given to him in air quotes, but... And Qyburn's like, guys, I'm pretty sure King Henry is the king, so let's not mess with this. And
he is, again, the Earl of Oxford, correct?
Exeter.
Yeah. Exeter. Oh, shoot.
Yes.
Okay.
And then Warwick's like, you want to die, Qyburn? Because, like, that was a dumb thing to say, and I crush heads. So Henry Six is like, how about this? Let me be king in my lifetime, and then you can have the throne after me. And York is like, okay, yeah, you could be the silent partner. Just quietly live your king life, but really I'm the king, and then after you're dead, I'll be the king. And York will get the kingdom after Henry Six dies, but Henry Six doesn't realize that just gives them all the reasons to kill him.
Right.
Because he's just the thing in the way. And Suffolk is like, what about your son, the Prince of Wales? Like, you basically just gave away his inheritance to some random guy on your throne. And then they're like, come on, guys, let's go snitch to the queen. Like, we got to tell the queen what he's doing. She's going to be so
She'll
mad.
do something about this.
Yeah, she's a go-getter. So then Queen Meg is with Prince Edward, and he's the Prince of Wales. And he should be a baby right now, but he's a little boy. He's closer in age than Richard is to his appropriate age. And she's like, what the fuck? Why would you give away my son's inheritance? And Henry VI is like, I'm doing this for my son. I'm stopping the war, which is an argument you could make. Like, if I keep this war going and I die, then they're just going to kill my kid who is too little to fight back at this point. Like, I'm keeping him alive, which is, I think, a valid argument.
And he would still get to be Duke of Lancaster.
And then York, we see York again. He's super happy. He's the king. And they're like, long live King Henry. And Exeter and Warwick shake hands, even though they hate each other. That's Qyburn and the head crusher, the hound. Qyburn and the hound are shaking hands. And York and company leave. And Henry Six looks at the throne. And we cut to him praying, because that's kind of how he dealt with everything, which is a valid coping mechanism. Like, that's just how he coped with things. He didn't like to be king. That wasn't his thing.
Right.
And his wife comes in pissed, and she's all, what the fuck, Henry? You disinherited our only son. And he's all, well, they made me. Because he's basically kind of a child. Like, he's childlike, for sure.
Very naive.
Yeah.
Weak-willed.
And he's like, what was I supposed to do? They made me. They were on my throne. What was I supposed to do? And she's like, you're the king. I would have died before I agreed to that. And she's basically like, we're not smashing until you fix this. She cut him off. She's like, no sex for you. Like, you better figure this out. And then she's all, this is war, bitches. Fuck the Yorks. I don't remember what she said actually, but that's what I wrote that she meant because that's what it sounded like.
Yeah.
And he's all, stay and listen, Meg. He's like, let's talk about this. And she's like, I've heard too much already. Like, no, I don't want to hear anything you have to say unless it's we fix this. And York is there with his people. And young Edward is like, I don't think we should trust Henry VI. I don't think he's we were just at war with him like 5 seconds ago. This doesn't seem like a good deal. And then Richie the Third, which is what I'm calling Richard the Third, is like, I have opinions. He says there was no magistrate there to witness this agreement, so does it really count? He's being all like rule lawyer about it. Like,
Right.
This is an arguably not legal agreement. The queen is then pulling up to York's castle because she's pissed. York says, Edward and George with me, Richard and Edmund with your mother and fly. Which, again, I was like, what the fuck? Like, first of all...
In the play, I think that younger brother was Rutherfield?
Yeah, it shouldn't be. He should be the second brother. That's Edmund.
Rutland, excuse me.
Edmund was Rutland.
Okay.
And he should be the second brother. It should go Edward, Edmund, then a big gap. Then George should be a little boy at this point, and Richard should be basically a toddler.
Okay.
And George and Richard were with their mother, primarily, because they were too little to fight in the war.
Oh, no, excuse me, I'm sorry. It is Edmund Plantagenet in the play. He's the Earl of Rutland. So, excuse me.
Yeah. Edmund is the Earl of Rutland, but he's not supposed to be the third brother. He's supposed to be the second brother, one of the older two.
Okay.
So they have the ages way messed up. But it's consistent because they're like, Edward and George with me. George would have been like 5 years old. It makes no sense. George and Richard would have gone with their mother. And George and Richard were with their mother, and then they lived with their sister over in Burgundy because they were too little to fight in the war.
Okay.
So, but in the play... Edward and George, they're trying to make George a thing, which I am going to call Georgie the Zero because he was never king. Because we got his brothers are Eddie the Fourth and Richie the Third. And so he's going to be Georgie the Zero because he was never king. But so Edward fought with his father, but also with Warwick. And Edmund fought mostly with his father. So George and Richard should have been with their mother. Edmund should have gone with his father. And Edward should have gone with Warwick, the Skull Crusher, if we're being historically accurate.
Okay.
When Edward became king in 61, that should be 6 years from now. And 6 years from now, when Edward became king, Edward should be 20, meaning he should be 14 now, which... That could be. He looks older than 14, but let's just say.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. George would have been 11 when his brother became king. So he's like 5 now. And Richard was 8 when his brother became king. So he would have been like 2 now. That's like 5 or 6 years ago. So, yeah,
even the White Queen, they messed up their ages,
oh,
right?
For sure,
I thought they were closer in age together.
No, they were little. They were children. They got called back from Burgundy for the coronation because that's where they were with their sister for safety because they were children. And I think they do that for consistency. Like, they don't want Benedict Cumberbatch's aged. Like, they don't want to have to play 8 different actors for this. But, yeah, Shakespeare is mushing everything together. So they're just all adults. And Richard, Edmund, and Cecily flee. And they are fleeing to their sister's house, which is true. She did flee with George and Richard to Burgundy, where her daughter was. And then Edmund and Richard hide, which, again, it should be Edmund and Edward maybe hiding, but
yeah,
Edmund and Richard hide. And Queen Meg
So they refuse to go with their mother.
Yes.
Yeah.
They hide because they're like,
I thought that actress was going to hit the side of the castle when she turned around to yell at them.
For sure. And Queen Meg walks into where they were just eating dinner, and she fucks up their dinner. No one's eating dinner tonight. She just, like, destroys everything on the table. She's like, these bitches are not eating this dinner.
All I
And-
could think of when she lit that tapestry on fire
Mm-hmm.
was, oh, that's such beautiful work
I
going to
know.
waste.
So much time it would have taken. And she burns the white rose tapestry because, fuck them. Fuck the Yorks. And it burns the whole castle goes up in flames.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're back to Edmund and Richard are hiding, and the soldiers are searching for them. And the funny thing is Edmund looks younger than Richard. Like, Edmund looks like the youngest one. He's the only one who's maybe close to the right age, because he should be a teenager, like a young teenager. But he was really older than, like, Richard should be a baby, basically, like, still maybe in diapers. And the
Or
soldiers,
nappies.
Yep. The soldiers are searching for them, but they don't find them. And then Edmund gets captured. And he gets killed. So based on that, this is the 30th of December, 1461. So this is the year before Edward becomes king.
Okay. So they suddenly just spent 5 years in this one battle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was killed by Clifford, Duke
and
of
he
Suffolk.
would have been 17 at the time. So, like, that part is accurate. He looks older than 17, but he's the closest in age to what he's supposed to be. And Richard sees it, which would be traumatic for a 2-year-old. Luckily, this is a full-ass grown man who's like 35. Yes. Then York meets Westmoreland, and they fight. And they're about to kill York, but then the queen stops them. She's like, no, don't just kill him. And she's like, sucks to suck. Look what we did to your son Edmund. And she brings in Edmund's dead body. And she teases York about his dead son.
She dips her handkerchief in his blood, wipes his face with it.
Yeah, it's brutal.
She is a raging bitch.
According to Shakespeare. According to Shakespeare, I mean, that's where she got the reputation for being a she-wolf. Everyone's like, oh, I had no idea she was this bad. Shakespeare gave her a bad reputation.
Yes, he did.
And the same thing he did to Richard. And, like, I don't think Richard was a good uncle. I don't think he was a good regent. I don't think he was a good king. But he wasn't as bad as Shakespeare made him out to be.
Like, malicious.
Like, crazy.
Yeah.
And so after she teases him about his dead son, then she kills him. So R.I.P. Duke of York. And he did die after the same battle as his son.
Well, after she teases him, she has him get a crown of thorns and, like, smash it on his head. And Ryan's watching that with me, and he's like, they should know that that's not really a good symbolism.
Right? Like, let's not pull on that thread too hard, because...
Right.
Which I think is Shakespeare's point.
Yeah.
You know, that this poor innocent guy just getting killed when he's just trying to be king like he was supposed to be king. And he did die at the same battle. They were executed after the same battle. So that is accurate. They died at the same time, or roughly the same time.
Okay.
And they did put York's head over the walls of York. They cut his head off and they put his head over the wall because they wanted York, the city of York, to be able to look at.
Right.
They wanted York to be able to look over the city of York, basically. They thought they were very clever. And then we see the burned out castle. And Edward and the guy they are calling George, who should be a little boy in Burgundy with his brother, Richard III. But they find his sword and they see 3 suns in the sky, which did really happen. The whole army saw 3 suns in the sky. And what we think now is that it was an astrological phenomenon known as a parhelion, where because of the way the atmosphere is bouncing off everything, the light is bouncing off the atmosphere, it does look like there's 3 suns.
Okay.
So they were like, well, there's 3 sons of York left. So obviously God is like, woo woo, Team York.
But in the show that they had, it looked like they were just looking into the sword and saying, oh, look, there's 3 suns. And then like they kind of bent it and made it look like one.
Yeah. That's Shakespeare.
Yeah.
There
I didn't
was,
like
the
that.
whole army saw 3 suns in the sky. Like, there's tons of people were like, yeah, we saw 3 suns. And it was
I guess
some
it's hard
sort
to
of
put that on
phenomenon.
a stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like everyone, the army, the brothers, everyone took that as a sign from God. Like, yeah, the 3 sons of York, 3 sons, And like poor Edmund, they're just like, fuck him. Like he's dead, so he's not part of the story anymore. So then they get word that their dad is dead and sad times, and George and Edward cry. Luckily, real George was over in Burgundy and wasn't even there for the three-son situation. And Warwick's like, let's get this crown, bitches. Warwick's like, I'm going to king make with these three children, because really it was just him and Edward. And Edward was a teenager who didn't have a dad now. So Warwick's like, oh, well, I don't have a son. You don't have a dad. Let's make you the king. And then we see York's head, and all I could think is they should really tar that head, because they used to tar the heads before they put them up over the walls.
Because then lasts longer.
Yeah, you could leave that shit up for 3-4 years. But they did not tar that head. It was just a head on a spike, so it's not going to last. And Queen Meg's like, hey, Qyburn, look what I did. And Henry VI is like, I'm irked. He actually says irked. He's irked that she did that with his head. And Clifford is like, you're going to have to get over it, my king. We did this for your son. Like, you wouldn't do it, so now we're doing it for him. So move forward and just say thank you. And his son should be like 7 now, because that one battle took like 5 years. So he's close to the right age now. 7, 8, 9, 10, something like that. He should be about 7. And the king is sad because York was his cousin, not his first cousin, but like his second or third cousin. Yeah. He's like, oh, my cousin's dead. Sad. And baby Ed, the Prince of Wales, Prince Eddie, is knighted. And baby Ed is so cute. He says he will defend the crown until his death. And I think that is foreshadowing, because he will do that. Yep. Yeah. And Queen Meg tells her husband, like, you can go now. Like, we don't need you. She's over it. She's done with this guy. And he's like, no, I'm the king. I want to come too. And they just like tolerate him like he's a child, basically. And we see York's army, which now is Warwick's army, kind of. Warwick, and the new York is Edward.
Edward, yep.
And they fight Henry's men, and Henry VI is like, these bitches made me king at 9 months old, and I just want to be a normal. Like, I want to be a normal more than any normal wants to be a king. So this is fucked up. Like, they made me be a king as a baby, and now they're just trying to kill me.
That's why he let his regent go on so long, and it was Margaret who had to get rid of him.
Yeah, because he was just used. That's how you be a king. You just let your regents do your thing, because you're a baby. And I feel like his regents really let him down. Like, they just let him. The poor guy was not trained for his job. No.
Yeah, nobody taught him how to be a king.
No. And Richard's like, Clifford, you killed my brother. And Clifford's like, yeah, and I killed your dad, which was brutal. Like, what a rude comeback. And they fight. And Richard wounds Clifford, but refuses to put him out of his misery, because Richard wounds Clifford, and then Clifford's like, just kill me. And Richard's like, gonna kill him. And then Clifford's like, it would really basically be nice of you to put me out of my misery. And Richard's like, oh, then never mind, because he's going crazy. This poor guy's like, it's like a character assassination, because he is a literal baby over in Burgundy. And they're like making him look like a crazy person.
Well, and both Clifford and Richard earlier in the show had said, I have no mercy left anymore in me. No pity.
Yeah. And I just keep imagining that he's supposed to be like a little boy. Like, he's like maybe 8 years old at this point in real life. So I'm just imagining this psychotic little child being like, I'm not going to kill you. Crazy child.
Well, the start of this battle, we see the king in his very particular doublet, right? Like, that makes it, like, that seems, one, a red flag, because literally it was like red and blue. And and the other thing, he's like climbing in this tree, and all I could think of was King Henry VI was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he.
See, in the sycamore tree.
Yes.
You'll be remembered. Thanks for listening.